Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Learn Everyday English, your roadway to English proficiency. Got a story to tell you today, something a little bit interesting. And this is based on a true experience that I had, something that was a little frightening, a little scary. And actually, I have never told anybody about this experience before. So I'm kind of going to be opening up about what I experienced. Something that kind of really scared me and frightened me and didn't really feel like talking about it. I'll give you a little bit of history about what happened. When I was 30 years old, I had a bad case of food poisoning. And it seems like it really destroyed or messed up my digestive system. And I couldn't eat a lot of things. I couldn't do a lot of things that I used to do. I used to be very active. Used to do a lot of exercise, go to the gym, do aerobics, lift weights, ride bikes, jog. But I couldn't really do any of that because my health was severely impacted. So I've decided to look for something new I could do that wasn't too strenuous, but I could still get some form of exercise. And there was a Kung Fu Tai Chi school in Houston, not too far from my house. And I'd heard about Tai Chi, and I thought, well, it's not as strenuous as Kung Fu or karate, taekwondo, which I'd done when I was a lot younger. Maybe Tai Chi would be the thing for me to do. So I went down to this Kung Fu Tai Chi school, Jeff Bolt's Kung Fu and Tai Chi, and I signed up to take the Tai Chi classes, and I really loved it. I really fell in love with Tai Chi. I was good at it. I was learning the 108 Yang style, long form, and other Tai Chi forms, and I really got into it. I was going 3 times a week. I was practicing 2 or 3 times a week outside of class, almost every day for an hour. And like I said, I was really enjoying it. And it was very good for me. It's something that was very good for the body and something that I still do today. I've been doing it. I'm 62 years old now, so I've been doing it over 30 years. I actually was teaching Tai Chi here before COVID hit, after I retired. So I really love it, as you can see. But then I started reading more about Tai Chi and the Chinese we could say Chinese health situation, and how the Chinese view health and Qi and Qigong. So I started to read books about Tai Chi, get more in depth. And this whole idea of Qi, what is Qi? This eternal force maybe, or this internal energy that exists in the body, that it exists in everyone. Everyone has this Qi. And I heard stories about people in my class. My teacher said he had an experience. He was trying to move his Qi around his body. He had this strange experience where like the universe opened up in his mind, and other people were doing these other things to contain the Qi, and it's supposed to be good for health purposes. And I finally read about something called standing meditation, or standing on stake Qigong, where you stand in a position where you don't move. You hold various postures, like hugging the tree, which is a very popular Qigong exercise. So I started to do these standing on stake Qigong exercises, and I found I couldn't do them very well at first. I could only do them for a minute or two, but I eventually worked up to 30 minutes where I could just stand motionless, holding the ball And you learn to release tension that's in your body, in your legs, in your thighs, in your shoulders, in your arms, in your hands. You use the internal structure and connection of the body, your tendons and ligaments, to support yourself. You learn to release more and more tension, more and more use of your muscles. So using the bones and the internal framework of the body to hold yourself erect and upright. And I think you end up learning to channel the force into the ground more and more. So it helps your internal strength, as we say in Tai Chi and the internal arts. It helped the push hands and the Tai Chi. So one day I decided to do some standing on stake Qigong. I went into a room and I was standing there hugging the tree. The light was on in the ceiling of the room. And I don't remember if I closed my eyes or not, but I was standing there, inhaling, exhaling to relax. Every time I exhaled, I would try to relax more. I imagined my body relaxing. I imagined myself letting go of tension. I imagined myself, my muscles relaxing. I imagined myself just using the minimum or minimal amount of muscular effort to hold myself up. I breathed in, breathe out and relaxed. Breathe in, breathe out and relax. And I began to focus my intention. I began to focus my mind on my breathing. In, relax, out, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, relax. And I started to feel very warm inside. A heat came over my body, which felt very good and soothing. And then slowly over time, I started to lose track of where I was. I wasn't paying attention to where I was. I was standing in the room. I wasn't paying attention to my breath. I started to see or visualize something in my mind. I started to see a tunnel. And I was at the end of the tunnel, and where I was at was a light. I don't know if it was the room that was the light source, or it was some other light source in my mind, but I saw the tunnel, a long, long, long tunnel leading to just a point, a speck, a dot of black or darkness. But the next thing I know, my body, or what I thought was my body or felt was my body, maybe it was my mind, I don't really know. I began going down this tunnel or being transported down this tunnel slowly, 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 away from the light and toward the darkness. So the light source, the light started to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and I looked in front of me and I could see the darkness getting larger and larger and larger until I finally opened up into this vast space of just total darkness. I couldn't determine if it had an ending. It just seemed like a dark space with no end. But then when I looked closer, I could see what it looked like were dots of light, like stars, like maybe the universe. Like when you look up in the night sky at night, you see the stars in infinite space. That's what I saw, but nothing really was definitive. Nothing was definite. It was just this dark space. And I had the sensation that I was just floating like the astronauts in the universe. I was just floating weightless in this dark space with pinpoint stars or points of light. I don't know how long I was in this space. When I was in this whole situation in my mind or wherever I was, it seemed like there was no idea or concept of time. Time seemed to stand still. Time seemed to not exist. Then eventually I felt like the top of my head was like peeled open and my brain was exposed. Like something had taken the top part of my brain and just opened it up. I was not in pain. I didn't feel any pain or sensation of pain. I just had this eerie feeling, this eerie sensation that my mind and brain was just opened and exposed to this infinite darkness. Then slowly, next thing I recall, next thing I remember, I got this feeling that kind of ran down my spine. This shiver ran down my spine. I said to myself, I sense something here. I'm not alone. I sensed a presence that was with me in this infinite darkness. And then eventually I felt like this presence was seeking me, was looking for me, was going to find me. And I felt that once this presence, I couldn't give it a name. I didn't see anything. I didn't see a face or figure or silhouette. It was just this feeling of a presence, ominous presence. And I had the feeling that if this presence found me, this presence was going to and had the intent of trying to take over my mind and control my mind. I don't know what plans it had for me, what it wanted to do, but I felt that once it did have control of my mind, that there was nothing I was going to be able to do to stop it. There was nothing I was going to be able to do to change it, to change what was going to happen to me until it decided it had enough or it was done with me. And just a fear came over my body. Fear came over my mind. I was like, I was going to lose control of myself to whatever this presence was. And I didn't have control until it decided to let me go. So I did the only thing I could think of in my mind. I said, I need to pray. I need to cry out to God. And in my mind, I said this. I said, God, take me out of this situation. I don't know what is going on here. I don't want to be taken over. I don't want my mind to be controlled by whatever this entity, this force is. It didn't seem like it was something good. It didn't seem like it was something that was good for me. I'd never experienced anything like this before. I'd never done anything like this before. And once I prayed and said these words, immediately I started to reverse from this infinite darkness, and I saw the tunnel again. And at the very end of the tunnel, there was just a small dot, a pinpoint of light. And then my movement began to reverse. I began to slowly move down this tunnel again. From the infinite dark space to the light. It took a while. But slowly, I made it to the end of the tunnel into the light. And then when I opened my eyes, I looked around and I saw that I was standing in the room where all this began. I was still holding the tree in this tree-hugging position, this standing on stake qigong position. What was interesting, too, was that I felt very groggy. I felt very sleepy, like I had been sleeping for a long time. But to be honest with you, I don't know how long this experience lasted. I didn't have a watch. Was it maybe a minute or two, 5 minutes, 15 minutes? I have no idea. But when I opened my eyes, I felt groggy. I finally kind of slowly came to, and I said to myself, what the hell just happened to me? What did I just experience? Is this real? Was it real or something I just made up in my mind? Something I conjured up mentally? Or was it something I actually experienced in another realm or another dimension outside of space and time? I don't know. But it so scared me that the first thing I said to myself is, hey, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do this again. And you know what? After that, I never did do that again. The only thing I can think of is that I just let my mind go. I didn't focus on anything. I focused on just releasing my mind and opening it up to whatever influence there was outside. That's the only thing I can think of. And maybe I opened myself and exposed myself to be influenced and maybe taken over, be tried to take over, taken over by forces outside of what we normally think of, forces outside of our dimension that we live in, forces outside of this space and time. I don't know. But like I said, it so scared me to death that I never did this thing again. But interestingly enough, I was still doing the Tai Chi, but I never let my mind go again. And I felt that I could separate the Tai Chi from this Qigong, for I was just doing physical movements and exercise, and that's how I decided to approach my Tai Chi from then on. But interestingly enough, through the Tai Chi, and I was studying Chinese as well, Mandarin Chinese, I met a young man from mainland China. We became kind of good friends, and I told him my story, what happened to me. And he told me, he said, that's very common what you experience. I've heard stories about this from a lot of people in China. It's nothing unusual. It happens quite a bit. Hey, don't worry about it. He never experienced it and couldn't really explain what happened. But he says it's very common. It happens all the time. I've also been in situations where I went to hear some masters of Qi or Qigong come from Taiwan. And they were doing some very strange things. They were experiencing erratic body movements and shaking like you see people have in the Christian charismatic circles. People were making strange noises and utterances coming from their bodies. They were kind of making animal sounds and rolling around on the floor. And there were a lot of people sitting there, and this seemed to be normal activity. But I don't know. This is an area that, like I said, I don't know much about and never wanted to find out anything more about. So if any of you have experienced this situation, the question I have, did I almost come into contact with the Almighty? Or what maybe people call the Almighty, or the omnipresence of God, or the universal force? What was this thing that I experienced that was trying to take over my mind and control me? Have you all had any type of experience like this? I'm being honest. And this is not a video that I'm just making this up. This is an actual experience that happened to me, like I said, that I've never really talked about until now. But I'd like to know if any of you have had this similar type experience in doing Chinese martial arts, Qigong, or maybe if you're doing Buddhist practices, Hindu practices. This type of thing common in other religions, other world religions or techniques. What is it that is really going on here? I've done some reading and I've read about these ascended masters who can give you knowledge that's not available to the average person. You can be able to experience things that other people can't experience. You can see things that other people can't see. Is this something that was going on with me when this happened? Let me know in the comments. Well, that's all I'm going to say right now, because that sums up my story. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if I had a near life experience with the Almighty or not, or the Almighty presence. Hey, let me know in the comments. Hey, thanks for watching this video, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.